Welcome back to Three Man Front on this Friday, Football Friday, a jam-packed Friday. Just talked to Wimp Sanderson. Mike Rodak from Bama 247 will be on the program momentarily. We'll also this hour go down to Florida, find out what's going on with the Florida coaching search, including the individual, the reporter, who reported yesterday that Florida has on the table right now a 6-year, $13.5 million offer for Lane Kiffin. So we'll see if Lane Kiffin bites on that offer. We'll also go to Arkansas, preview Auburn and the Hogs. So Mike Rodak will join us momentarily. But it's halftime of the kickoff sales event at Courtesy GMC. Right now, you can get up to $15,000 off remaining 2025 Sierra 1500s and 2500s, the absolute lowest prices you're going to find in Alabama. The all-new 2026 Sierras, they are rolling in daily there at Courtesy GMC in Trussville, and for a limited time, they're marked at the 2025 model year pricing. And remember, every new GMC comes with Courtesy's exclusive 7-year, 100,000-mile powertrain warranty. So get by and see them this weekend. They're right off of I-459 exit 32 in Trussville. That is Courtesy GMC. Time to talk to Mike Rodak from Bama 247. Joins us on the Higginbotham Hotline. Mike, I hope you're doing well. And before we start previewing the South Carolina game, the X's and O's, I want to ask you about Alabama's availability report last night, which all of a sudden got a little bit more populated than it did the night before.
Yeah, exactly. It's I would say it's nice, these days when we have these availability reports and things don't really pop up out of nowhere on Saturdays, especially in the world of gambling, as we saw yesterday. Sports gambling is obviously a big reason why these availability reports come up. So Alabama has to list these players, and they've added 3 players last night. And probably the biggest one I would say is Latsier Brooks, who's come through for Alabama in some pretty key moments this year. Obviously, the 4th down play at Missouri being one of those. I think like 9 out of his first 12 catches this season went for first downs, but he's doubtful for this game as of last night's report, which they don't have to list a specific injury. I think it's fair to assume it happened in practice, given that he was added to the report. But, they're traveling, given that this is a road game and they're traveling, if he doesn't make the trip, then he'll have to be downgraded to out by tonight's report. It's also possible, I guess, that he makes the trip and it's a game time decision. But if he's doubtful, I'd say it's pretty unlikely that he's going to play or even travel at that point. So, definitely a loss, given he adds that extra guy that defenses need to worry about. And this is still a pretty good South Carolina defense. I know overall this is not a great team, but their defense is much further along than their offense. So that obviously helps them. Rico Scott's probably the guy that I would look for to be that 4th receiver. He's already kind of been in the mix among the top 4 at different points, especially when Ryan's been out. But, Geno Vandermark has started every game at guard, and he's questionable for this game as well. Obviously, they've been rotating a lot of guards. If he can't go, you're just going to keep rotating with, one fewer guy. But, Danny Lewis is also the 3rd player, and he's been added to the report and declared out, which would be another game that he misses. And obviously been banged up a little bit at tight end. When he's healthy, he's probably your second tight end, had a catch at Missouri. But, 3 players added to Thursday night's report, which is a little bit surprising.
Mike, with South Carolina and their offense kind of being in flux and trying to find answers there, you still got a really talented guy in Lenore Sellers at quarterback. He hasn't run as much this year or had the success when he has run as he did last season, but this Alabama defensive staff, they've got to be ready for whatever because you got a wounded animal with their back against the wall. What do you think the expectation is with the South Carolina offense and Lenore Sellers and how he's implemented tomorrow?
Yeah, it's a good question. I think their offensive line has played a role, and obviously some of his rushing stats, because in college you're counting sacks with your rushing stats, and I believe their sack number is pretty big. Like 23 or 26 sacks that he's taken so far this year. So, that's obviously kind of dragging down his rushing total, but he's big. That's the biggest concern is he's 240 pounds and you got to tackle him. So if he does break free, if there's a scramble situation, then you got to bring him down. It's not an easy quarterback to do that against, but they did it pretty well last year. He had 19 yards and 16 carries. So I would say that was good. But he's had some games where he can kind of break it loose on the ground. And just because you did it last year doesn't mean that you're going to be able to do it again. Offensively, I don't think they scare you as much, certainly as Tennessee or even Missouri for that matter. But it's, you have a very talented quarterback in Sellers, and I just wrote about it. He's still top 3, top 4 among quarterbacks for this upcoming draft. And maybe he comes back for another year, given, what's happened at South Carolina so far this year, but still an NFL talent at quarterback. And kind of, if you're looking at guys who are ranked for the NFL, he's the best quarterback that you'll face this year. So that's dangerous. Obviously, the game being on the road is dangerous too. So, their offense, South Carolina's offense, statistically not there, but you still have that potential anytime you have a quarterback of his caliber.
Mike Rodak joins us from Bama 247 on the Higginbotham Hotline as we preview South Carolina taking on Alabama. So last week, and you were going up against a Tennessee defense that, especially up front, not in the secondary, but at least up front, they presented some problems. And Alabama just really couldn't get that running game going with Jam Miller. Was it so much of the fact that Miller was coming off that concussion, or was it something that Tennessee was doing that just was not allowing Alabama to get the traditional running game going?
I mean, Tennessee's good defensively. Their front is good. You're talking pretty high level SEC players there, and and probably better in that regard than Missouri or Vandy that you faced before that. So obviously Alabama has not run the ball well in too many situations this year. Maybe the end of the Georgia game when you really wore them down, that was one area where you're like, all right, that running game is what you need it to be. But overall, it hasn't been. I think they're 111th in yards per carry. When you kind of limit it just to the running backs, because there's been some decent runs by wide receivers and a couple of tie scrambles. If you just kind of limit it to running back runs, it's even worse. So part of that, I think, is really just the running backs that you have. Jam is not a guy who makes people miss. I think we've seen enough of him by this point to know that. He's not the most explosive runner. He's not the shiftiest runner. He can get some tough yards when he needs to, but statistically, he's one of the worst in FBS in terms of missed tackle rate. If you look at Pro Football Focus, I think if you kind of limit it to guys who have had over 50 carries this year, he's like 184th out of 191 in terms of getting people to miss tackles. So part of it's just Jam. Maybe Daniel Hill gives you a little bit more of that size and you can kind of run through people, but he's not really going to make people miss in terms of shiftiness either. So Barry Sanders is not walking through that door. I don't know if this running game is all of a sudden going to turn into something great, but you need it to be at least a little bit better. Part of that, yes, is the offensive line. I don't know if they're going to rotate until the end of time, but it seems like they're just going to keep rotating until they find something they like. But it's a little bit of both. I don't know if you can single it down to one factor, but it has not just been the Tennessee game. I think it's been consistently throughout the whole year. The running game's been a question.
Mike, it's hard to think about. Prior to the start of the season, we thought that this was going to be one of those marquee matchups, and it's still a really big game. But Alabama, 2-touchdown favorite. South Carolina has not lived up to the billing by some that they had in the preseason. What do you expect as far as game flow? Because if there was ever a maybe look past game, maybe this is one of those games, considering the other games left on Alabama's schedule. How do you think that this game will flow, and what is your expectation for the final outcome?
Yeah, I think given what we've seen out of Alabama, they've come out of the gate pretty strong in most of their games this year. I think that's obviously partly because of Ty. That's partly because of Ryan Grubb. You probably have the best coordinator in college football. And just being able to kind of take that lead and then settle in. And, that I still expect that in this game. If you're telling me Alabama's up 7-0, 14-0, that wouldn't surprise me, too very much at all. So in terms of flow, that's what I would expect. But here's the thing. I mean, Alabama has really benefited from a lack of turnovers offensively this year. They've also benefited from getting teams to turn over the ball in pretty key situations on the other side, as we just saw with the Tennessee game. So the turnover margin is the best stat that this team has right now. If you look at more of the bulk stats, if you will, like yards per play allowed, they're not great. Even in SEC games, and Alabama's played an SEC schedule, I think they're 9th offensively in yards per play. They're 11th or 12th defensively in yards per play against SEC opponents. So The raw numbers aren't great, but it's the fact that Ty Simpson is not turning over the ball, especially through the air. He has 1 interception on 218 pass attempts, really good. And then the defense keeps making these plays. So it's a question of, can you sustain that, where sometimes turnovers are just bad luck. It's not something that you can really control. If there is a ball that gets tipped and gets caught, intercepted, or whatever, can you kind of keep in the same flow and have, just kind of those raw numbers? Do they start to work against you? You can't run the ball, you can't stop the run, etc. Or can you just keep this turnover margin up where you're +1, +2, +3, and you're not really worrying about how well you can run the ball, how well you can stop the run? I think that's the biggest question for me.
All right. And I know you guys already put your prediction out, and you just gave us the game flow, a number for Alabama and South Carolina, if you don't mind.
Yeah, I forgot the exact score. I think I had 27-13 for Alabama. And yes, I get some of the trap game elements. I think this is the biggest trap game on their schedule. You can talk about looking forward to the bye week. You can talk about being beat up after 4 hard games, back on the road, etc. A wounded team, a desperate team, like all those things play into it. But I'm not sure that means that this is going to actually be a game that you have to worry about. I do think, just seeing a little bit of South Carolina this year, I think this is a team you certainly should beat, and I think you certainly should beat to, I don't want to say an easy degree, but a comfortable degree. And that's where I think I landed at, was that a 14-point margin?
Yes.
So a little bit just covering the spread. I think the last time I saw it was 12.
Yes.
But yeah, this is not the game I'd worry about. I still think the Oklahoma and Auburn games would be the ones I would be a little bit more concerned about given the matchups.
That is Mike Rodak from Bama 247, joins us every Friday on the show. Mike, appreciate it as always, and we'll catch up with you next week.
You got it, guys. Thank you.
Thanks. That's Mike Rodak joining us on the Higginbotham Hotline. Higginbotham is your one-source solution for insurance, financial, and HR services.
Well, speaking of Alabama, if you're an Alabama fan, get into the Finnick this weekend. They've got a watch party. It's the Jefferson County chapter, University of Alabama Alumni Association. They're going to be there at the Finnick, 1630 2nd Avenue South tomorrow. You can get in there and look at all the large video boards, the large screen televisions, and the state-of-the-art sound. You're going to find wonderful menu, from the handhelds to the fork and knife, the starters, the handcrafted cocktails dedicated to your favorite team, whoever you root for. And it doesn't stop there. Sunday, NFL fans get in there. They got all kinds of fan groups to get together to have their own watch parties, respectively. And on Monday nights, you get Monday Night Football. It's the Finnick, 1630 2nd Avenue South. You got live entertainment, live band cranking up at 10 o'clock tonight. It's the Finnick, FinnickBham.com for more information.
Coming up next on Three Man Front, we will head down to the state of Florida, find out what is going on with this potential offer of $13.5 million for Lane Kiffin to become the next head coach of the Florida Gators. We'll find out from the source who reported that yesterday. Buddy Martin joins us next. Well, 5 days ago, the Florida Gators, they made the move that most of us anticipated. Billy Napier was let go by Scott Strickland, and the Florida Gators got on the board just like Arkansas did earlier this year, looking for a new head football coach. Joining us now on the Higginbotham Hotline, longtime columnist, media maven down in the great state of Florida, New York Times bestselling author. I can go on and on and on, but our next guest is Buddy Martin. You can follow his work now at Gator Bait. And Buddy, first off, welcome back to Birmingham, and thanks for joining us today.
Hey, thank you very, very much, and it's so good to be on your show. I don't think I've ever had the pleasure, Pat. I've known you, known of you, even the pre-Feinbaum years, but so it's good to be on your show. And just so you know, I got roots there. My great-grandfather was from Florala, just so you know, okay?
Okay, great state of Alabama, absolutely. Yeah. Well, you're very kind to come on, and Buddy, needless to say, I continue to follow your work through the years, and you do a great job at Gator Bait. And this story, for those maybe in the state of Alabama, because we got our own drama going on at Auburn, we got Alabama that's clicking along pretty good right now, but for those that may be new to this story, if you would, tell our audience what you guys reported yesterday at Gator Bait in regards to a potential offer to Lane Kiffin.
Okay, let me clarify one thing. There's no truth to the rumor that the people down in Florida have agreed to change the name of the town to Lanesville from Gainesville, okay? Just so
Gotcha. Perfect.
It's catchy, though.
It is catchy.
Everything else is true, by the way.
Okay.
It's the story that I'm proud to say, and if you don't mind me bragging on the guys of my team, we got over 125 years of experience in journalism with our guys, and 3 of them worked on the story last night. I was actually detained at the hospital, and my team put it together, and they called me, and I signed off on it. And it was a story that was really significant to us, although nothing has been officially done, and people are obviously calling us every name in the book for breaking the story and hurting the chances of getting Lane Kiffin. You know how that goes, Pat. So the deal they put on the table, we found out from a really well-placed source, 6 years, $13.5 million for Lane. Now, you may have heard other figures, and they're probably true, but let's just don't get it confused with what Jimmy Sexton's asking for. I'm told, I don't have this in black and white, Jimmy wants 15 million in 6 years, whatever it is. But here's the thing: Ole Miss would like to go above that 11 point, go above that, and offer more, but they can't. They're limited at the state of Mississippi, to 4 years on contracts, and they can't. They've been losing money at a pretty high clip there. Our sources say around $12 million a year in the fiscal year for the third straight year. So they're pretty much tapped out. So if they're going to keep Lane, if money's a primary motivator, and look, Lane's changed some. If you've seen the shows as I have and the pieces that have been about him, he's a different man, better man, I think. But the situation, if money does dictate it, I think Florida will get their guy. And I think the people in Ole Miss right now are really pissed off at the Florida Gators.
Buddy, and I know that this can be sometimes really hard to decipher, but as far as timeline, I know that we're not going to get anything from Lane, and he'll be asked about it at some point. But as far as timeline and maybe getting a nod from a Jimmy Sexton, when would you expect, just based on your experience in past deals, when would you expect maybe that to take place?
Anybody's guess, but the sources told us as soon as Ole Miss's season is over. But that doesn't mean Lane gets his coaches down there before then. And he's got to be very careful because he's sitting on a pretty good team himself right there, having just lost his first game. And I don't know anything about this. This is just what the sources tell us. They say that when Ole Miss's season is over, then he would kick in. Now, obviously, things are being done behind the scenes all the time. We all know how that goes. We don't really know how that's going to play out. But here's the damning evidence. A very good friend of mine was with an SEC coach recently who told him that Lane said to him, the SEC coach, "I'll see you in Jacksonville."
Interesting.
So but you will. But that's there's all kind of signs pointing to it. Now, I mean, I'm not saying the deal is done. I don't know if the deal is done. I think what this shows, Pat, is that Florida knew what they were doing when they fired Billy Napier. They thought they had something in their back pocket. They intended to make an offer, and now that offer has been tendered. Maybe that's the first round. Maybe there'll be renegotiations, and people maybe they'll ask for 14 points. I don't know. But the fact is that Florida has one coach and one coach only in its sights. Can they reel him in? I don't know. We'll see.
Buddy Martin joins us from Gator Bait, a New York Times bestselling author, and you can follow his work there at Gator Bait. So, Buddy, in the event that Lane Kiffin decides to stay put in Oxford, where does Scott Strickland in Florida pivot from there?
That's the big question. I don't think there is a pivot spot. You heard all the names. Drinkwitz's name comes up, etc. There's a list. We could go over those lists. I think everybody else is a distant second choice. You name it. I don't know where they go from there. That's why I think the pressure's on. They got to bring him in because Gator fans have had enough. They don't want any more Sunbelt coaches. That's just maybe arrogance. And I know there's guys out there who have really good, you can name a bunch of guys who look like good candidates, but this has got to be as close to a slam dunk as they can. And the guy they bring in has got to be a blue blood. I mean, Nick Saban's not available, okay? So I don't know what else to say. I don't think there is another candidate that's that strong. Now, will they have to settle for Eli Drinkwitz? Maybe. Maybe. We'll see. But I don't think they want to.
Buddy, what role will or is athletic director Scott Strickland playing in this whole process?
The best I can guess at and estimate is somewhat more limited. The money guys are making the calls as it is today in every school. I think he will be able to say that he put his stamp of approval on it. His name will go on it. But just like when Urban Meyer was hired by Florida, the president hired him actually. Jeremy Foley brought him in, did a good job of negotiations. But, the guy that's going to really make that decision probably has, a large bank account. I think it will be agreed upon in consensus, and that's what will happen. I think Strickland will have a role, but you don't get a chance to hire 3 football coaches very often, do you?
No, you don't. I think that's why we're kind of shocked that Strickland is even being involved now. So let me ask you this, buddy. In regards to the post-mortem of Billy Napier's career in Gainesville, you've been around that program a long time, and you know the inner workings. Why didn't it work with Billy Napier? Was it an X's and O's thing? Was it recruiting, transfer portal, NIL? Could you put your finger on one specific thing?
I wish I knew, to tell you the truth. It's a lot of the above things that you mentioned. I wrote a column saying that maybe he could have bought in more to the theory that, that fans and media mattered. He didn't seem to care about that. He did okay on the media, not great. In all the years I've known every coach since Bob Woodruff, I've probably had least access and talking and content from Billy, but I'm nobody. Don't put it on me. I don't think. I said in my column, Pat, that he ran the football program and everything else. He was in the witness protection program. He just didn't want people to know about important matters. He wouldn't discuss them or bring them up. And a lot of them they were asking press conferences, he'd sidestep them. He wouldn't answer them. The sort of Nick Saban, Bill Belichick school of press conferencing. So anyway, I think it's very, very, very likely all the above. But look, it was the record. He had the worst record since Tom Leap back in the golden era, and he didn't get it done. And he had a great finish the last season. We thought that was going to be the way that was going to be the regular thing. Now it didn't work out for whatever reasons, injuries, whatever, hard luck. The fact is, Billy Napier didn't get it done.
That is Buddy Martin, New York Times bestselling author. You can follow his work nowadays there at Gator Bait. Buddy, it was a lot of fun. It's great to connect with you again, and hopefully you'll come back and join us.
Well, now, look, here's the deal. This has to be a home and home.
Absolutely.
You have to come on my show sometime.
Absolutely. Just you got my number. You let me know, and I'm there.
Yeah, I do a podcast 4 nights a week, so I'd love to have you on. Thank you so much, Pat.
Thank you, buddy. Take care. Best to you. That is Buddy Martin joining us from Gator Bait. And the breaking story that he had yesterday at Gator Bait, Lane Kiffin has been offered a $13.5 million a year deal for 6 years at the University of Florida. We will discuss and we'll also preview the Auburn-Arkansas game next.
$11:31, three-man front on this Friday. Landrum, Pat, Conrad, and Molly. The text line is open and available, 205-834-9450. Wow, what a conversation with Buddy Martin. Broke the story yesterday that Florida reportedly offering Lane Kiffin, deal on table. Lane Kiffin, $13.5 million per season, 6 years, all of that good stuff guaranteed. You can go back and you can find that interview with Buddy at jocksfm.com and the Three-Man Front podcast. Interesting what he had to say about Billy Napier and kind of the conundrum is everybody still to this day. I thought it would work with Billy Napier I thought that
I did too.
Billy Napier, that was exactly what that Florida program needed, and he would build it and he would get it right. But for whatever reason, that just wasn't the case.
So now they're going to throw a lot of money at the highest name on the board, and hopefully it sticks.
What did you think about Buddy basically saying Lane Kiffin is the only candidate that they're looking at right now?
It's very dangerous.
It is very dangerous, and oftentimes, I'm just telling you my experience, you miss, and then you have to go and you have to scramble to find that next guy. It usually doesn't work out the way that your fan base hopes it does.
So our next guest is going to be able to tell us not only what the weather forecast is going to be in Fayetteville, Arkansas for the Auburn game, but also if Arkansas is going to be willing to pay Florida like money, $13.5 million a year for their next football coach. Ty Richardson joins us from ESPN Radio in Arkansas. Hey, Ty.
What's up, guys? Happy Friday. You could have filled your 11:30 slot better, but we'll get through it as best we can.
Well, we had some other options, kind of like when Lane Kiffin turns down Florida. You know, you got to go down to like 2, 3, 4, and so you're like our fourth choice for 11:30 time slot today. So I appreciate you filling in for us.
Congratulations,
Of course,
Ty.
it's perfect with the coaching conversation. You guys didn't get the guest you wanted, and Arkansas is not going to get the coach they wanted. It lines up perfectly.
All right, so let's start there before we start previewing the Auburn-Arkansas game. What is the very latest? Can you tell us? And is Bobby Petrino gaining support amongst the Arkansas faithful?
Guys, Petrino's going to be the head coach in Fayetteville, and it just comes down to the jobs that are popping open. Auburn's going to pop open Sunday when Hugh Freeze loses to Arkansas tomorrow, and Arkansas gets its first SEC win against the Tigers. I'm not so sure that Shane Beamer and Brian Kelly will keep their jobs in Columbia and Baton Rouge. So it's not necessarily because the Arkansas job is that bad, but there's just other jobs that are better. Penn State's better. Florida's better. Those SEC schools that I mentioned are better. So you can either get like the 7th or 8th guy on your list, or you can get a guy that's a known commodity, at least to some. I don't know if he actually is, but the whole message on our point today was brace for impact, because Bobby Petrino is going to be the head coach, in my opinion. I don't have any insight. I think it's going to happen.
Well, you were halfway right on your prediction of Auburn or Arkansas. I'm like you. I believe that Arkansas wins the football game, but maintaining that Hugh Freeze, even if they get beat, he's still the coach, and they see it through the end of the season. When you look at potentially that Auburn job and some of the names, if the job does come open, where do you go? Because Hugh Freeze, Brian Harsin, tail end of Gus Malzahn, you would think that maybe they go away from that pedigree, go a different route. Who is that perfect personality, in your opinion, for Auburn and to take them into the next few years, maybe the next decade?
Well, those three guys are regarded as offensive guys, so maybe you go in a defensive direction. I think for Auburn, it also comes up against who else is in the hiring process, and Auburn is a better job than Arkansas. Any Arkansas fan that thinks otherwise is just not looking at it logically. But I would think that maybe John Cohen, it's like, okay, we've tried the offensive route. Let's see if we can get a defensive guy, especially to counter what Kalen DeBoer. It's not like they have a bad defense in Tuscaloosa, but he's definitely regarded as an offensive guy. So maybe that's the direction. Maybe not a specific guy, but just an ideology you see different on the Plains.
All right, Ty, you kind of already let the cat out of the bag, predicting Arkansas is going to beat Auburn. Why? Are the Hogs going to get their first win of the year in the SEC?
Well, guys, in 2025, offense more often than not is going to prevail against a good defense, and Auburn's got a really good defense. Durkin has been the only reason they've been in games this fall. I'm forgetting the outstanding linebacker that has like 5 sacks and 9 TFL. Is Khalil Garrett? Is that his name? Or Kedrick Falk? That's what I'm thinking of. But I just think Razorbacks are going to do just enough defensively to not necessarily shut. Like Arnold's going to have his best game of the year tomorrow. He might look like a Heisman candidate, but I think defensively against that line that lost their starting center, Cardlew, and against the unit that's given up the most sacks. Not that Arkansas has been good at rushing the passer, but I just think Arkansas will have a little too much offensively to counter how inept Auburn's been offensively this fall.
When you look at Arkansas and maybe moving forward, and you said brace for impact and Bobby Petrino, take the off-the-field stuff and put it aside. How is Bobby Petrino different from what you've learned in his return to Fayetteville as the offensive coordinator?
I'll say this about him. Like, I was in the press conference after the Tennessee game and also after the A&M game. He's more emotional. I'm not going to call him lighthearted or soft compared to what he used to be, because he's still got that in him, but you can tell how much he wants to win for the players because they've been through so much, as Auburn has thus far this season. And I think, like, guys, I don't know how you were, but I'm a different man than I was 14, 13 years ago. You learn from life lessons, and obviously he's older than me, but it's one of those situations where you're holding on to the idea that he's learned from his previous mistakes. And it's also a sense of like redemption. Like, I want to go back to a place that I was winning 9, 10, 11 games a year in Fayetteville. I want to bring this program back to, listen, this is not a championship level program in Fayetteville, but they can get 8 or 9 wins. They can pick off an opponent they're not supposed to. We've seen it. There's a lot to like. There's a lot to dislike. I just think that the way the college football market is right now, Bobby Petrino is going to ultimately get this job, barring him going 0-5 down the stretch in these final 5 games.
Obviously, you've got boots on the ground. People that I know that have deep ties in the state of Arkansas, they tell me that there is a group of people that want Rhett Lashley. And Rhett Lashley being from Springdale, Arkansas, his wife is from Springdale, Arkansas. That's a job that very early on in his career and even a couple of years ago, that was one that he would love to have in Fayetteville. Have you heard his name mentioned as a potential candidate for that job as opposed to that of Bobby Petrino?
Yeah, it's a popular name. He's got the grassroots, like you're talking about, played high school football in the state, coached in the state, and now would be a very top list candidate, top tier. I think the deal with him is, why would you leave SMU? I know they're not having as good a season as they were last year as a college football playoff team, but I just can't get over the idea of leaving. And I know home is home, and you mentioned his wife and him being from Northwest Arkansas. But I got to be honest, guys, if I was the head coach of SMU and I had the backing and support and the pathway to the college football playoff that he has relative to what it is in Fayetteville, I'm not leaving. Are you? I just, he must really want to come home if that's the case. And I'll give him credit if he does. I don't see it, at least this coaching cycle.
Okay, so if Rhett is not, maybe potentially, because I guess I know you're saying Bobby, but in the event that something happens in the midnight hour and they have to go somewhere else, where do they go?
I mean, I think James Franklin is someone that's definitely on the list of some top donors. I know what his record is against top 10 opponents, but it's not like Arkansas has a great record in that time. I know they beat Tennessee, number 4 in the country last year, but Franklin won 9 games back-to-back years at Vanderbilt. And it was at the time that was unheard of. I know Clark Lee and the success he's having this year. He also, again, won a lot of games at Penn State. I think they had 7, 9 or more win seasons in his time in State College. So I would be ecstatic. I think he's a good recruiter. I would want him to hire someone offensively that he hasn't had on his staff at Penn State because they haven't had good quarterbacks. Aller is the most overhyped quarterback in college football. McSorley was good, but that's it. So that would be my thing. I was like, he can recruit. I mean, Abdul Carter, Micah Parsons. He's had great defensive players over the years, but just maybe change up the offensive philosophy, get a guy that you're not necessarily familiar with that knows how to coach on that side of football. And I would be gung-ho about James Franklin to Fayetteville.
All right. With that being said, and he just got a bunch of money from Penn State to go pound sand, how much money do you think that the powers that be in Fayetteville would be willing to spend per year on a head football coach?
I think double digits, because Pat, you were kind of talking about it earlier, just where Arkansas is in the pecking order. Landrum, I really think they would spend $10+ million to get this thing right. You're doing it basically in basketball with NIL and Cal. Baseball, top tier, just to win a championship. Classic Arkansas. I think boosters, like, you get to a breaking point, right? And that's why I think Freeze, if he doesn't win tomorrow, he's gone, because fans, like, you can't stomach losing to an 0-4 Arkansas team or 0-3 in the SEC. You just can't do it. So there's a breaking point, and I think the high level boosters of Arkansas have had it, and so they're going to do whatever they can to get a football coach worthy of that. And if they don't, then they're going to go on the cheaper end, hire Petrino, and hope that the investment in the future pays off with just him and everything else that could happen to this program.
Okay, so give us the 24 hours from now. We will be getting ready for kickoff. What is the weather forecast for Fayetteville? We've been seeing some reports, and it's not very good.
Well, stay put. Don't leave Alabama. If Auburn fans, it's going to be raining on the way here, and it's going to be raining at the game, which is unfortunately kind of like it was last weekend when A&M was in town, back-to-back home games, and it's just raining the whole time, which stinks. Yeah, guys, it's going to be raining throughout the day. It doesn't look like it's going to be thundering and lightning, so there's not going to be, hopefully not delays, knock on wood. But it's not it is fun. Like, when you're a kid, you get to play in the backyard, like that type of feel. But in terms of an attendee and a fan and a patron, not the best game you want to be at.
Final question. How much partying went on in Fayetteville with Tony Vitello leaving Tennessee, going to San Francisco?
Man, our fans were happy. He won a national championship before Dave did. He obviously loves to talk, but guy's a winner. I don't know what it looks like translated into majors, but it was. I think the SEC was happy to see him go, considering the level of talent that he would bring into Knoxville. And but Dave Van Horn, guys, would dog walk him during games. He has a terrible record against DVH head-to-head. Unfortunately, he got one before Dave did in terms of championship-wise. But, yeah, people rejoice. Pat Landrum and Connor DeMar, they were happy to see him head of the big leagues. But there's always a chance he comes back to Fayetteville to take what Dave Van Horn and Norm Bryan started, hopefully to even another level in terms of championships. But, yeah, they were happy, guys.
Yeah, poor old Dave Van Horn, man. I feel like Ty that he's going to be one of those guys. He's going to be like Mike Martin at Florida State that just never gets one. I don't know why.
Unfortunately, the longer this persists, I think that's the case. I will say this, guys: they don't play Texas, LSU, A&M. There's one other opponent or two that they don't play this year that are powerhouses in baseball. You got Kevin O'Sullivan stepping down for the time being for personal reasons. Vitello's going out west. Like, if this isn't the year you can win the whole thing, when is it going to be? So hopefully things fall into the right place because he deserves one.
Well, Ty, wear the poncho tomorrow. Enjoy the game and enjoy a win, right?
Hopefully. We'll see. We've been through enough, but I can't really say that to Auburn fans considering the anguish that they felt the first 4 weeks of SEC play.
Yeah, they're not going to want to hear it for sure. Ty Richardson, the great state of Arkansas, ESPN Radio there. We always appreciate the time. Hit them straight when you get to hit them again.
All right, later. Thanks, buddy. See you guys.
See you,
brother. Ty Richardson joining us on the Higginbotham Hotline. You deserve solutions that are built for you. Higginbotham's your one-source solution for insurance, financial, and HR services.
If you're tired of worrying about your roof, whether it's your family home or commercial building, Abide Roofing delivers tailored solutions for every need. At Abide, it's about more than just a new roof. It's about a team of highly skilled pros who bring their A game for every single job. I saw that firsthand when I got a brand new roof put on just a couple years ago with Abide Roofing, and they can help you today. 25 years of trusted experience. They have the expertise to get the job done right the very first time. The peace of mind of knowing that the job was done right. They'll give you a free consultation and estimate. No obligation, just solid advice. So if you're ready to get started, call the professionals at Abide Roofing today. That's 205-941-6223. That's 205-941-6223. Or just go to their website, abideroof.com. That's Abide Roofing, quality, precision, customer satisfaction every single time. Give Travis Lloyd and his outstanding local roofing team a call today, 205-941-6223. We will get to your phone calls, your texts. That's next on Three Men Front.
11:53 Man Front, a football Friday, a very busy football Friday. And football Fridays here on 3 Man Front would not be football Fridays without our buddy JR, who is absolutely on fire with his picks, not only on the air with a free pick. He had the Lions last week, and they came through handsomely. But you are slaying it, JR, when it comes to the NFL, and you're not too bad in the college ranks as well. Happy Friday, JR. How are you, my friend?
I'm doing outstanding, Landrum. I really appreciate it, as always. And, guys, could not be happier with this past week. I mean, Sunday, we swept the board. We had a double unit on the Dallas Cowboys. I got to tell you, I mean, even last night, had the L.A. Chargers. It's just been rolling. Everything's going the way it should. And, you know, look, early on this year, I was the first one to say it. Not that it was brutal. We just weren't getting way ahead like we're so used to. And it was just a lot of games not going our way at the very last minute. And that happens sometimes. But now, the last few weeks, we are just literally rolling downhill. Everything is winning. Everything's going our way. Clients are making just tons and tons of money. So here's what you want to do. Text the word WIN to the number 545454. We're going to give you the winner of the big matchup going down tomorrow. We're talking about Alabama taking on South Carolina in South Carolina. Guys, it's yours for free when you text the word WIN to the number 545454. We're going to send a text right back to you with that point spread winner. So take advantage of it. You guys know how good we are with and against Alabama. I'll let you know whether they're just going to win in that cover or whether or not they're going to steamroll. Here's what you do. Text WIN to 545454. We'll give it to you absolutely free.
All right, speaking of steamroll and rolling your cash flow, that's what you talk about, because in your past life, you were a financial advisor. Money management is something that you preach each and every week. So you have the big weekend or the big week last week. We roll that into this week, right?
When I was talking last week about it, I kept saying set the table. And what I was talking about was whatever money we made in profit, okay, from last week, I want all my clients, they're going to take that profit, or at least a portion of it, normally all of it, and we're going to put it on game one tomorrow. I've got one huge game that is going to all of my VIP clients, and I'm telling you, I feel we've been looking forward to this matchup for weeks now, so got pretty good idea that it's going to be a big winner. I just love the game, so I'm going to give it to everybody and we're rolling that into my big game, one big game in the NFL. Again, another one we've been waiting for, and I expect to go 2-0 this weekend. And obviously, worst case scenario, I think is going to be 1-1, but I believe strongly I'm going 2-0. That's why we're doing this rollover, sort of like a mini score for the mid-season, if you will, where I think we're going to be able to make 3 units instead of 2. And we're not just talking about starting off with our normal unit. We're taking the profit from last week, which is somewhere around 5-6 units ahead, depending on where you started. And we're going to roll it on to 2 more games this week. Guys are going to make 20 units in 2 weeks. So if you don't know what I'm talking about, we explain it all, guys, and I make it easy. Like I'm telling you, easy winner with this Alabama-South Carolina game. Text the word WIN to the number 545454. Let me start you out with an easy winner in college football.
Before we get to another winner, and that's your NFL free pick here on the air, we're limited on time. The FBI and what's going on with the gambling probe there with the NBA, how is that resonating with folks in your industry?
Yeah, I would say not really at all. I mean, if anything, it makes guys kind of second guess whether they want to be betting on sports these days with the craziness that's going on out there. I'm still not a believer that things are, listen, if it's an anomaly here and there, that's going to tend to happen, whether it's legal or not legal. There's always been nonsense that's gone on behind the scenes. It's like these guys just don't make enough money. It's kind of disgusting. I'm not happy about it. But overall, I think that the leagues and the books, they do a really good job watching for it, and that's why they're able to pick up on it pretty quick. And I'm proud of the FBI going out there and doing what they're doing, having the audacity to make that call and make the arrest.
Yeah, salute to Cash Patel and co, I guess. All right, let's get to the free pick quickly. We're under a minute. You like a team out of the NFL, and it looks like and it smells like the Baltimore Ravens.
Oh, it's the over in the Bears-Ravens game. Go over 49.5. That game is going to be back and forth. No defense on the Ravens side especially. Bears going to let up touchdowns. Go over 49.5. I hear the music. So, guys, Text WIN to 545454. Let's get started with a big winner and go out there and make some money.
All right, JR, get started on that Italian Thanksgiving feast. I know that's right around the corner. You got like a month to prepare for the spread you and your family are going to enjoy.
That is true, man. You guys be good.
All right, you as well. JRTakingVegas.com. Once again, the over, Ravens and Bears. Your phone calls, your text, 2 hours left on this Football Friday. It's three-man front. We're your home for college football and more. Jocks.